What do one of the most popular natural swimming spots near Brisbane, Harry Potter and rescued deer have in common? They're all part of a day trip you can do less than an hour from the city. It's an unlikely combination, but put it all together and you get a side of the region a lot of people never think to explore. We're heading up into the Owlery range, where the morning takes us through mountain lookouts, rainforest walks, and a couple of very well-placed cafes before dropping us down into Samford Valley for lunch and Cedar Creek to finish the day. The first stop is Jolly's Lookout, and it's only 30 minutes from Brisbane. The lookout sits high above Samford Valley, with views stretching across the surrounding mountains and all the way towards the city in the distance. There are a couple of walking tracks here if you want to spend more time exploring, but for today's itinerary we're keeping things simple. Take in the view, enjoy the quiet, use the toilets because there aren't any at the next stop, and then we're moving on. Just a few minutes further up the mountain is Boombana, where we're swapping the views for our first rainforest walk of the day. There's a small car park here with only a few spaces, so keep that in mind if you're visiting on a busy weekend. There are a couple of tracks to choose from, but I recommend the Pitta Circuit. It's an easy walk that only takes around 30 minutes, making it perfect if you want to experience the rainforest, but don't fancy committing to one of the longer walks in the area. The track takes you underneath a thick subtropical rainforest canopy, past huge strangler figs, vines, and plenty of bird life. The tracks here actually connect all the way back to Jolly's Lookout, so there are much longer walking options available. So after the walk it's time for some breakfast or morning tea, and the View Café is one of the most popular stops along the Mt Nebo road. There's plenty of parking and the deck has wide views across the surrounding mountains and valleys. If the weather is good, this is definitely where I'd grab a table. Inside, the counter is packed with homemade pastries and some pretty elaborate desserts. There's also indoor dining and a separate covered outdoor seating area at the back. I went with the breakfast burger and they've definitely done their own take on it, and it was delicious. And after some savoury, why not some sweet? One of the more unique things here is the Yo Mix station. You choose your own frozen yogurt flavour and then you're able to customise it from a huge selection of toppings. Now as another option, and for a totally different vibe, keep driving up to Mount Glorious Café. This has been a popular cafe for motorbike riders for years, which you'll realise pretty quickly from all the bikes lined up along the road outside. The motor theme continues inside with bright red walls covered in motorbike memorabilia, old racing photographs and hot rod artwork. There's almost a retro American diner feel to the cafe. And then for reasons I'm still not entirely sure about, there's an alien hanging out beside the counter. It's quirky, colourful and completely different to the view, so you've got two very different options for your morning stop. A few minutes further up the road is my favourite lookout from the mountains, Wivenhoe Lookout, where the view opens up across the Brisbane Valley towards Lake Wivenhoe. And of course, like the other stops, there's walking trails here that you can begin too. Our final stop in the mountains is Maiala, one of the main walking areas in the Owlery National Park. The map gives you a few options depending on how much time you want to spend here. The Rainforest Circuit is a relatively easy 2-kilometre return walk, or you can extend that to around 2.5 kilometres through Cypress Grove. If you want something even longer, the Greensfall Walk is around 4.3 kilometres return and takes around 2 hours. Unfortunately, we don't have 2 hours to spare today, so we're sticking to the shorter Rainforest Walk before heading down the mountain towards Samford. After leaving the mountains, we're heading down into Samford Village, and this is where the day starts to slow down a little. Samford has that classic country village feel with local cafes, small shops, and plenty of people making the trip out from Brisbane for a relaxed weekend breakfast or lunch. In the centre of town is John Scott Park, which is a good place to start exploring. First up is the Slab Hut Art and Craft Gallery, showcasing locally made art and crafts inside a traditional style slab hut. For families, there's also a huge playground with plenty of picnic space around it. You'll find a basketball court and even a BMX pump track in the park itself. Now this is where Samford gets magical. The Store of Requirement is a Harry Potter themed destination spread across 2 neighbouring buildings, and you really don't need to get inside before the theming starts. Outside you'll find plenty of Wizarding World references, huge chocolate frogs, broomsticks, and even a blue Ford Anglia from Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. There are 2 parts to explore here. The Store of Requirement itself is packed with Harry Potter merchandise and collectibles, but first we're heading into the Owlery for lunch. The theming inside the Owlery has been done incredibly well. If you look up, you'll see the Marauders map covering the ceiling, owl cages hanging from above, and owl references in the artwork, figurines, and decorations pretty much everywhere you look. The indoor seating area feels like you've stepped into a cafe in the Wizarding World, with cloaks, potion bottles, and plenty of smaller details hidden around the room. You'll even spot the school sorting hat, although I don't think you're allowed to try this one on. But if you prefer something a little bit more normal, there's also plenty of outdoor seating. But honestly, if you've come all this way, I'm sitting inside. After lunch, head next door to the Store of Requirement, where you can take a little bit of the Wizarding World home with you. The store is packed from floor to ceiling with official licensed Harry Potter merchandise. And one of the things that first caught my eye was the huge collection of wands. There are wand boxes and displays everywhere, including replicas belonging to some of the most famous witches and wizards from the series. There's even a custom ministry-style proclamation overlooking the collection. And these aren't just for display, the wands are all for sale. So if you've ever wanted to find out whether the wand really does choose the witch or wizard, this is probably your chance. Each Hogwarts house also gets its own section, with 4 bookcases completely covered in house colours. You'll find everything from toys and bags, mugs, puzzles, diaries, and plenty of Gryffindor, Slytherin, Ravenclaw, and Hufflepuff clothing. In fact, there's an entire clothing section if you really want to leave looking like you belong at Hogwarts. Our next stop is Lyell Deer Sanctuary, and the first thing to understand is that this isn't a zoo. Deers aren't native to Australia and are considered a feral pest in Queensland. This creates a problem when deer are orphaned, injured, or displaced, and this sanctuary provides a home for animals that might otherwise have nowhere to go. Your visit starts with some friendly deer in the shop area. Then after paying the entrance fee, you move into the designated hand feeding area, where you can feed the deer through the fence. You can't take the food past the next gates though, as the deer recognize the bags and will chase you down. Once inside, you can walk amongst the deer and get incredibly close to them, but you may notice the males with antlers are kept separately. Male deer naturally shed their antlers every year and then grow a completely new set over the following few months, often in around 90 days. The sanctuary keeps some of those naturally shed antlers, which is why you'll find an entire collection of them on display. This stop is by far the best $10 I've spent in a long time, and it's definitely worth visiting if you got some kids with you. Now before the final stop and the biggest highlight of the day, make a quick stop at Andy Williams Park right on Cedar Creek Road. The park sits alongside the creek itself with picnic tables, electric barbecues, and plenty of open grassy space. And more importantly, these are the last toilets before heading further up to the Cedar Creek swimming holes, so now is definitely the time to use them. And finally we've made it to Cedar Creek. From the car park, follow the signs down towards the creek, and this is where the final part of the day really begins. The main swimming hole isn't right beside the car park. You're looking at a roughly 40-minute walk along the creek, and this isn't a normal maintained walking track. A lot of the route involves making your way over rocks and following the creek upstream. But keep an eye on the riverbanks as you go. In sections you'll find informal tracks that people have curated through the bush, running parallel to the creek and giving you another option when you don't fancy scrambling over the rocks. But in my opinion, scrambling over the rocks is half the fun. And you don't necessarily have to make it all the way to the end to get in the water. You'll pass several swimming holes along the way, starting with the smaller pools before they gradually get bigger as you continue upstream. But if you're willing to keep going, this is what the entire day has been working towards. The main swimming hole sits beneath a long sloping rock face where Cedar Creek cascades down the rock before finally dropping into the large pool below. It's easily the highlight of the walk and a pretty great place to finish the day. Just take the warning signs seriously though. The rocks around Cedar Creek can become extremely slippery, particularly after rain, and there have been serious accidents in the past. If conditions don't look safe, this isn't somewhere I'd take the risk. Otherwise, find yourself a spot, get in the water, and enjoy the final stop of the day. From mountain lookouts and rainforest walks to Harry Potter, rescue deer, and Cedar Creek, there's a surprising amount packed in this little corner of Brisbane. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next adventure.